Hi everyone, how are you? Hope you're having a great day. Today I'm doing the beginnings of anxiety versus choices, and it's really I'm going to be transplanting all the videos as I do, but you'll realize over the course of our life that the more choices we make for ourselves, the less anxious we are, more often than not. Um, in most cases, right? So, especially when you're making healthy choices. When you're making healthy choices for yourself, you'll realize that the less anxiety there is. So, adjusting your health so that you're eating better quality food, um, less packaged, less sugar, less alcohol, quitting drinking, like quitting drinking overall, quitting smoking, quitting drugs in some people's cases, and those sorts of things. Yet the healthier choices we make, the less anxious we feel most of the time. However, when it comes to my experience with the smoking side of things, well, I was smoking to cover up anxiety. I wish the dogs would stop bringing flies in. I was smoking a lot of the time to cover up anxiety. I was concerned about what other people would think of what I said. So I was putting the smokes in my mouth to cover that up. However, when I had the big realization of the fact that I can't change absolutely anyone around me, I can only change myself. And if I can only change myself, then I can choose more, like I can choose more empowering things in so many different ways, and I can also choose to manage and master my anxiety rather than put something in my mouth to cover it up. You know what? It was like just the whole unraveling thing. Okay, and I realized that if I stop being scared of what other people will think when I start saying more of the things I feel and think and have an opinion on or have a truth on or what I've learned or let the weirdness out show, like show out more. Just things like that. I realize that the right people will be attracted to that and the wrong people will let themselves go out of my life. And that's exactly what happened. It's been absolutely beautiful, more beautiful than you could possibly imagine. Okay? And so it's been a much more empowering time ever since that day of realizing exactly the fact that I have no control over absolutely anyone else, right? And they have no control over me, which was the other part to the empowering thing, right? Because if I have no power over absolutely anyone else, then absolutely no one else also has any power over myself, you know? And it was just this back and forth realization of I don't have to worry as much as I thought I did, you know? And it's quite interesting that one of my aunties, who we thought was one of our supporters, that turned out that she was actually just a covert narcissist trying to get gossip and therefore spread it around and try to make herself sound more holier than thou. And at the same time, she'd been the main one that'd been pestering and pestering and pestering me for 20 years to quit smoking, not realizing that I was smoking more around her so that I would hold back what I would say just so I wouldn't offend her. And when I stopped that cycle and I stopped the smokes and I actually let some things out really peacefully, I wasn't nasty about it or anything. I was actually like very supportive actually. She was upset at the fact that I supported her breakup with a toxic person. Because we've been trying to say that person's toxic. Don't you know, it's up to you to make the mistake, but you're making a mistake. And she's like, you never said that kind of thing. And I said, yeah, we did. Both me and Kelly said this. We even told her the day before she drove 5 hours here to visit us, don't bring him to our house. He is toxic. We don't want him here. and she brought him to our house, and she didn't hear any of it. And it's quite interesting because we were people pleasing that person. You know, we even put up with it when not only did she bring the toxic person to our house, but she said, "Is it okay if he sleeps over here with me?" Well, it's a bit too late now. You're already here. You know, we'd already told you yesterday, don't bring him. And now you've brought him, you've driven 5 hours with him to come to our place, invited yourself in with him. We were fine to see her, we just didn't want to see him. He was toxic. You know, he's an alcoholic and a whole bunch of other things. And, you know, and he'd like 3 days earlier, she was calling us in tears about him, which is another reason why we didn't want to see him. You know, we were fine to see her at the time. But it's funny because, like, since then, and we said that we told her, look, we're so happy, congratulations, you broke up with him. He was so toxic for you. You never said anything like that, she says. Yeah, we did. You know? But, like, since the understanding that, like, she is quite funny. The funny part out of all that is the fact that she hasn't spoken to us since, which, you know, because, like, the first time in my entire life that I actually said what I wanted to say even clearer than usual, you know, without the buffer of putting a smoke in my mouth to prevent myself from saying those things. And I no longer have to deal with her toxic nature either. It's been nice. It's been nice and peaceful. So, as far as being relevant to becoming a pilot, well, it's quite funny because I knew that to become a pilot, smoking is a very difficult habit. It is going to be a very difficult habit to continue anyway. And so I knew that before I even consider becoming a pilot, that I'd really have to work on my anxiety either way, so that I could solve the problem of not needing smokes. Because it's not, when you're up in a plane at however many thousand feet, it's not like you can just open the window because you feel like having a smoke while you're driving the plane. You can't do that. So I understood that the choice I was making to continue smoking was also getting in the way of me wanting to become a pilot. Okay? And since quitting smoking and successfully doing it over the last 14, 15 months or whatever it's been now, you know, and doing it cold turkey is such an empowering thing, because the way in which I absorbed the truth of my choices and the fact that I'm only responsible for myself. I cannot be. I have my responsibilities. Yes, I am responsible for loving my wife, and my wife is responsible for loving me because we choose to be together. Okay, and it's through that choice that we build everything else, because we could choose to live together, love together, and build things separately if we want to. And we're going to be doing that, some of that along the way as well. She has her projects she'd like to do. I have my projects that I would like to do. And those particular ones that we want to do ourselves is like our own little thing of us that we just know that the other person's not interested in doing. Okay, but then there are other projects we come together and we get involved, and it's in the nitty gritty and all the details and everything else. All right, and she also understands that even though becoming a pilot wasn't really on her radar of things to do, she loves the idea of the fact that we don't have to rely on having our own pilot on salary. We could just take off and fly somewhere together, and if I need to use the bathroom while we're mid-flight, then she can just take the thing for a bit, while mostly the autopilot and stuff will probably be used. But like, at least she knows that she'll have that comfort. And knowing the fact that she'll be able to have the abilities to fly the plane means she'll be less anxious sitting in the pilot in the pilot's chair, right? You know, sitting in that chair and knowing what to do is a much less anxious position than sitting in the chair not knowing what to do just because I needed to take a shit or a piss or whatever, you know? these are all things to consider, especially in the group that I've created here, and the engineers group and the pioneering group, where we're choosing to create a $3 million type house, $10 million type liquid cash lifestyle, and the health and relationships to support that. It's a very empowering way to choose things, because you're choosing health along the way, you're choosing to have great relationships on the way, so you're able to share these experiences. And if you're going to be a pilot as well, how about being a pilot where you're sharing that experience with your loved ones, your spouse, your kids, that weird cousin that loves being himself, that dresses up like Zorro every day. You know, having those people that are free to express the best of themselves, and sharing your best of yourself with those that are not afraid to be their best selves. You know, these are empowering choices, and they help alleviate the anxiety. It doesn't mean that anxiety won't be here from there to there, because like when you're going for your pilot's test to make sure you get your pilot's license and stuff, I'm sure there's going to be anxiety in that moment, but we're going to have enough private lessons and that sort of thing to get through that, to make it so that it's lessened. If I was to just take a pilot's lesson tomorrow before I've done any of the lessons, then that's a different story. Okay? But at the same time, it would still be just as much of a learning experience, because it'd be showing me exactly how much I don't know yet. Right? And when we're shown through feedback, through results, through negatives or positives, and we get this feedback, right, or opinions or what have you, right? Each one of them is if you take each one of them as a learning experience, then you're choosing to grow and say, okay, this is the thing I need to learn here, right? Or this is the thing I need to learn there, right? And you grow from each experience, and therefore each experience that is similar to that, you're less anxious from. Okay? So you can see how the beginnings of understanding the empowerment of taking choices into our own hands and plotting a future by doing the list of 100 and the health, wealth, and relationships, and the list of 100 experiences I'd like to have in this lifetime, right? How those start to stack up as really empowering choices that really alleviate anxiety. So when I decided to do property development and to do coaching, I realized that I would have to get over my own anxiety of being in front of the camera, because that was a really big thing to me. I could never do this before. I needed to hire a coach for myself, right, to challenge me on that, keep me accountable on that, and really push me forward. So she chose really ridiculous titles for a lot of the live videos that I had to do back then. Actually about a year ago, 2 years ago now, actually. And she challenged me to do these live videos, right? And kept me accountable, because and she gave me feedback on each one of those live videos, what I could be doing better, right? And how I could present myself better. And after the month coaching or whatever it was and stuff that I did with her, I was able to do these things. I still have anxiety sometimes for particular subjects, and I challenge myself to work out, well, okay, what is the thing that was causing this reaction? All right. If you're really interested, I can actually send you the link that. So I was doing a mastermind. I was creating my mastermind courses on the Tony Robbins site, and I went to do the recordings over and over again, but I kept on stuttering and stammering the second I hit the record button. Okay, so what I did to challenge myself that time, because I'd already the coach was like a year before that, but like it still came up a bit. So what I did to challenge myself is I just pressed record, and whatever came out. It was frustration, and it just like vocalized the thoughts I was having in myself out loud, so the rest of me could hear how mean I was being to myself. And from that, and watching the watching the replay of that, and actually posting it on the YouTube channel that we created, So as a reference, so I can show myself, look, this is where I've come from. Okay? But also to show others, this is what I used to be. Okay? So if you want that link, let me know in the comments below, and I'll put it in the comments below. Alright? I might just do it for the hell of it. Okay? But before I got a coach to help challenge me on pushing myself past my own anxieties of the camera, right, I couldn't do the live videos. But when she told me that it actually, the reasons she did hers was to advance herself forward in her property development uh, projects that she was doing, and how that worked, and how she attracted investors to help her move forward easier, right? I realized it was something I needed to do and push myself past my own anxieties to get these projects started. And lo and behold, it worked. I started attracting investors to my own property development projects, and like not just small investors either, like 900 grand, 1.5 million, and whatnot. Okay, they were serious investors, and they were inviting me to a coffee to sit with them to offer that ability. Or some of them just wanted to meet me because they were seeing what I was doing as a very powerful thing. And I was also showing to them that if they wish to make videos and do live videos or whatever, that they could achieve similar, but they were scared to go in front of the camera as well, and that's where we related, that's where we bonded, and they're trying to learn more about me as to how I overcome the fear of the camera. Okay? Things like this, you inspire people in very different ways when you challenge your anxieties and start making choices, like more choices than the actual anxiety. Okay? And sometimes you may have an unrelated anxiety. You just need to choose something to do that day, so you feel a little bit more empowered about yourself that you did something that day. Okay? Anyway, so I realized when I was getting myself ready to quit smoking that I really, as much as I want to be a pilot, I realized the smoking thing was going to be a really big barrier and an excuse, an Achilles heel that I would have lent on if I didn't get rid of it. That would have blocked me from going for my pilot's license. And this year I'm going to be able to afford to do all the lessons and stuff as I wish to do them. So, and that's taken another year and a half worth of growth, but I know that it's bloody worth it because I know that I'm free and clear of the smokes, which means I don't have that excuse. I can actually start setting myself piloting lessons and stuff in the next few months, and I really look forward to showing some of those as well later on. So yeah, and that's how I relate me having to quit smoking. And luckily, Kelly quit smoking a year ahead of me, and she also hired a coach to help her. That's been really effective, and it's just a peace of mind that when we do, because it is a case of when we have our own plane, when we get our own small corporate jet like the Honda jet, or maybe the Learjet, maybe, because they're much more fuel efficient for one, and you can get to places a bit faster at a bit better capacity and a little bit more space inside as well, right? And they're only about $3 to $7 million each, right? When we get to that capacity, it's going to be a real peace of mind knowing that while we're flying around, that if we need to use the bathroom, we can use the bathroom, the other person can take the controls. We can trust the other person. Otherwise, if I'm doing a lot of the piloting and I need to go use the bathroom, I don't want to be anxious passing the controls to someone who doesn't have the pilot's license. So Kelly gets that as well. So, so it's going to be a thing where we can learn off of each other as well as getting our own license each, and we won't have to depend on a pilot being on call for us if we don't want to. So, but that's as we get past the 50 to 100 million stage. So, yeah. Anyway, God, it's going to be so much fun times ahead, I tell you. I look forward to all. I hope you guys can catch me in the group coaching session tonight. I hope you've been doing your list of 100 so you can have at least 10 of those to share during the free coaching session that's tonight in the link below. And that is at 7 p.m. Sydney time. I will see you there, or I will see you in the next day or two. Bye bye.